She lied about her inheritance being $50, $0 to hide her affair with my business partner, then staged a fake breakup to steal $200, $0 from our joint account. Now she's claiming the house is hers in a bitter courtroom battle over $500, $0 in assets. I never thought my life would turn into a damn soap opera, but here I am, living through it. It all started with a gut feeling, little things that didn't add up. My wife Lisa always seemed a bit off lately, more bitchy, more dismissive, snapping at me over nothing. She also started spending more time on her phone, always hiding her screen when I walked into the room. At first I thought she was just stressed about work or maybe dealing with some personal stuff. We'd been married for 10 years and honestly, things had been pretty smooth up until then, or so I thought. But then I began noticing her lying about money. She insisted she only inherited 50 grand from her aunt, claiming she wanted to keep it low-key because her family was embarrassed about their wealth. I didn't push her too hard. She's always been good at spinning stories. But I knew she was hiding something. She tell me she was saving for a house, but her spending habits were way out of line. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, trips she claimed were business expenses. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. One night I was going through our joint bank account just to check the balance, mostly out of curiosity. That's when I saw it. A transfer of $200, $0 from our account to an account I didn't recognize. My stomach sank. I immediately called the bank, but they couldn't tell me much, only that the transaction was authorized by Lisa. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she do this? Why would she take such a huge chunk of our savings? I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't ready for what I'd find out. The next day, I decided to follow her. She told me she was going to meet a client, but instead, I followed her to a small, upscale hotel downtown. That's when I saw her going into a room with a guy I'd never seen before. They were kissing, holding each other like they were the only two people in the world. My heart just stopped. I stood there watching as she pressed her lips to his like she didn't care who saw. That moment changed everything. All the little doubts, all the suspicions suddenly made sense. My wife was cheating on me with my business partner, Tom. I couldn't believe it. Tom had always been a good friend, someone I trusted. We built a lot together, our company, our life savings, everything. And here she was betraying me with him. I snapped a few pictures on my phone just to have proof, then quietly slipped away. I felt numb, like I'd been punched in the chest again and again. How long had this been going on? How could she lie so convincingly about her inheritance and her simple life? She told me she was saving for the future, but she was out there screwing my partner, stealing from us, lying about everything. When I got home, I was shaking. I didn't know what to do first, cry, yell, or just sit in silence. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed to plan. This wasn't just about a cheating wife anymore. It was about betrayal on a scale I never saw coming. I had to decide whether to fight to expose her or to cut my losses and walk away. But one thing was clear. My trust was shattered beyond repair. Lisa had lied about her inheritance, staged a fake breakup to steal our money, and now she was claiming the house was hers in some bitter courtroom battle over $500,000 in assets. I was furious, hurt, and feeling more betrayed than I ever thought possible. After I saw her with Tom that day, I couldn't breathe properly for hours. My mind kept racing, trying to process what I just witnessed. It felt like my whole world had been turned upside down in a matter of minutes. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see this coming. The woman I married, the person I trusted with everything, she was out there sneaking around, lying to my face, stealing from us, and sleeping with my so-called friend. It was a punch to the gut I didn't see coming. I kept replaying that scene in my head over and over, as if I could change what had happened, just by willing it. The next step was obvious. I had to confront her. I didn't want to do it right away, not without some kind of plan. I needed to gather my thoughts, my evidence, and figure out what I was really dealing with. But I also knew Lisa. She's a bitchy, manipulative woman who's always been good at spinning stories and twisting things to her advantage. I had to be prepared for her to deny everything, to lie her way out of it, or worse, turn the tables on me. Still, I couldn't just ignore this. I had to face her head on. That night I sat her down in the living room. She looked annoyed, like I was bothering her. I threw the pictures I took on the table. Her face went pale for a second, then she snapped. "What are you showing me? This is fake. You're trying to ruin me." I felt my blood boil. I told her I knew about her affair with Tom and the money she took. Her reaction was priceless. She started crying, claiming she was sorry, that she was under so much pressure that she didn't mean for everything to get out of hand. She said she was just lonely, that Tom made her feel alive again. That was her excuse, just a bunch of crap. I could see right through her lies. She kept insisting she was innocent, that I was overreacting, that I was jealous or paranoid. But I knew better. She had lied about her inheritance, claiming it was only 50 grand when I later found out she'd inherited way more, closer to $500, $0. She told me she was saving it for a rainy day, but instead she was spending it, hiding it, and using it to keep Tom happy. That's when I realized she'd staged the fake breakup to cover her tracks. She convinced herself she could steal from us and get away with it because I was too blind or too trusting. I felt a mixture of rage, disappointment, and heartbreak. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, like she thought she could manipulate her way out of it. But I wasn't going to let her. I told her I had enough evidence and that I was done playing nice. I had plans, big plans, to turn the tables, to make sure she paid for what she did. I wanted her to feel what I felt, betrayed, humiliated, and powerless. That night I stayed up late, going through every detail. I called my lawyer, started gathering proof of her lies, the bank transfers, the fake breakup. I wanted to know exactly how much she'd taken and what assets she could claim. It was already clear she was trying to claim the house. Even though I knew the truth, she had no legal claim to it. She lied about her inheritance, lied about the breakup, and stolen a fortune from our joint account. I was furious that she thought she could get away with it, that she could just spin her web of lies and come out on top. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach every day since I found out. I was angry at myself for trusting her so blindly, angry at Tom for betraying me, and furious that Lisa thought she could get away with everything. But I also knew I had to stay calm, plan my next move carefully, and play this game smart. Because if I didn't, she'd walk all over me and I'd lose everything. My money, my house, my dignity. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I had to fight back. I had to protect what was mine, our assets, our future, my dignity. And I was ready to do whatever it took. The following days turned into a whirlwind of planning and gathering evidence. I knew I couldn't just confront her again without solid proof, especially since she's the queen of manipulation. I started digging into her financials more deeply, bank statements, hidden accounts, anything I could find. Turns out, she had been lying about her inheritance the entire time. She claimed 50 grand, but I uncovered documents showing she'd inherited close to $500,000 from her aunt. She'd been hiding that fact from me because she wanted to keep her options open, probably to use it to buy her way out of the mess she'd created. Meanwhile, I also discovered that she'd staged that fake breakup to steal even more money. She convinced me to transfer some of our joint savings into a safe account, claiming it was for a new investment. But she drained it, about 200 grand, before I even realized what was happening. That's how she managed to steal a chunk of our savings without me noticing at first. She'd been planning this for a while, I think. All the while, she kept up her bitchy attitude, acting like the victim, throwing tantrums whenever I questioned her. That woman can turn on the tears and guilt trips like no one else. Once I had everything, I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer. I knew I had to act fast, especially because she was already trying to claim the house as her own. She's claiming it's half hers because she contributed to the mortgage, but I knew the truth. I bought that house before we got married, and the assets are separate, but she's trying to manipulate the system. She's claiming she's entitled to a share because she's been living there, and she's spinning lies about how much she's contributed financially. I had to be prepared for her to lie her way through the court proceedings. In the meantime, I decided to confront her one last time before going to court. I wanted her to know I wasn't going down without a fight. I called her into the living room and I laid out all the evidence I'd gathered, screenshots, bank statements, the inheritance documents, everything. Her face twisted into a sneer when she saw it. She tried her usual BS, saying I was trying to ruin her, that I was paranoid, that she was just a victim of my jealousy. I told her she's a lying, manipulative bitch who's been cheating, stealing, and lying her way through our marriage. I told her I knew about Tom, about the money she took, and that I was done being played. Her reaction was priceless. She started crying, but not because she was sorry, she was furious. That fake bitch was furious because her plan was falling apart. She kept insisting she loved me, that Tom meant nothing, that she only did it because she was lonely, like that's supposed to justify everything. I didn't fall for it. I told her I was done with her lies, that I'd fight her in court, and that she'd regret ever crossing me. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be the sucker she thought I was. That night I stayed up again, making calls, drafting legal documents, preparing for the inevitable court battle. I knew she'd do everything to drag this out, to spin her lies and manipulate the system. But I also knew I had the truth on my side. She's claiming the house is hers, that she contributed to the mortgage, but I had proof I bought it before we married. She's claiming she only inherited 50 grand, but I had the inheritance documents showing a much larger amount. I also had proof of her stealing the $200, $0 from our joint account by staging that fake breakup. The pieces were falling into place, and I was ready to fight. Deep down, I felt a mix of anger and relief. Anger because she betrayed me in the worst way possible, and relief because I finally had the upper hand. I realized that I'd been a fool to trust her so blindly, but now I was waking up. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. I was going to take back what was mine, and she was going to regret ever crossing me. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, but I was determined. I refused to let her manipulate her way out of this one. Not again. The court date finally rolled around, and I felt like I was walking into a battlefield. I had all my evidence organized, bank statements, inheritance papers, the proof of the staged breakup, everything. Lisa showed up looking like she just swallowed a lemon, her usual bitchy smirk replaced with a forced, fake smile. She was trying to look innocent, but I could see right through her. She's good at pretending, but I knew her too well. She thought she could lie her way out of this mess, spin her stories, and walk away with the house, the money, everything. The judge started the hearing, and Lisa was already throwing punches, claiming she'd contributed equally, that she deserved half of everything because she'd been living there, and that I was just a jealous, paranoid husband. She even tried to claim that her inheritance was only 50 grand, which I immediately shot down with the documents I had. That's when I saw her blink, her fake composure cracking for just a second. She knew she was caught, but she's stubborn as hell, so she kept lying. I presented all my evidence methodically. I showed the inheritance documents, which proved she'd inherited way more than she admitted. I brought in the bank statements showing her draining our savings, the fake breakup scheme, the transfer of $200, $0. I explained how she'd been manipulating me, lying about her inheritance and stealing from us. The courtroom was tense, and I could see the judge's eyes narrowing as I laid everything out. Lisa's face turned red, and she started interrupting, trying to spin her own version of events, claiming I was harassing her and that I was trying to ruin her reputation. But I didn't let her get away with it. I told the court how she'd lied from the start, how she staged the fake breakup to steal our money, and how she's been manipulating everyone around her. I explained that the house was bought before marriage, that her inheritance was much larger than she claimed, and that she had no legal claim to it or the house. I also made it clear that her attempt to claim half of our assets was based on lies and deceit. I wanted the court to see her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd do anything to get what she wanted. The hearing dragged on for hours, and I could tell the judge was weighing everything carefully. Lisa kept trying to throw tears, but they seemed fake, like she was just acting. I stayed calm, focused, and kept repeating my points. When the judge finally made his decision, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. He ruled that the house was my separate property, bought before marriage, and that Lisa had no claim to it. He also ordered her to return the stolen $200, $0, which she had already spent on her fancy trips and designer clothes. The judge's ruling was clear. Lisa had lied, manipulated, and stolen, and she was going to pay for it. After the court, I felt exhausted but relieved. I knew this wasn't the end of the story, but at least I had some closure. I also knew I had to start rebuilding my life, focusing on my own well-being and making sure she couldn't hurt me anymore. The betrayal was deep, but I was determined not to let her ruin me. I realized I'd been blind for too long, trusting a woman who only cared about herself. Now I was finally waking up, ready to move on and rebuild. She tried to destroy. Honestly, the whole thing left me feeling hollow but also stronger. I learned a hard lesson about trust, about how some people are just good at pretending to be what they're not. I don't regret fighting for what's mine. If anything, I wish I'd seen her true colors sooner. But I guess that's the price of love sometimes, getting by someone you thought was your partner. Now I know better. Never again. After the court case, I thought I'd finally get some peace, but it wasn't that simple. Lisa didn't just roll over and accept it. No, she went full-on bitch mode, trying to drag things out, appealing every decision and making my life hell. She started spreading lies to friends and family, claiming I was abusive, controlling, and that I was the one stealing from her. The woman is a master manipulator, and even in defeat, she's still trying to play the victim. I knew she'd never give up easily, but I was done playing her games. The aftermath was I had to deal with lawyers, court filings, and the emotional toll of betrayal. I had to cut out all the toxicity, people who believed her lies, her fake friends who sided with her. Honestly, I felt betrayed by everyone I thought I knew. My own family was stunned, especially because Lisa had spun her stories so convincingly. But I stayed firm, knowing I had the truth on my side. I also started taking steps to rebuild myself, therapy, focusing on my health, and making plans to move on. One of the worst parts was seeing her try to twist the narrative. She claimed I was a monster, that I'd been emotionally abusive. She painted herself as the victim, even though the evidence was clear. I kept my head down, refused to stoop to her level, and let the court and the facts speak for themselves. Still, it stung. It's one thing to be betrayed, but to have your reputation tarnished by someone who lies so effortlessly, that hurts in ways I can't even fully explain. Meanwhile, I started the process of selling the house. It was a painful decision. This was the home I'd built with her, the place where we'd shared so many memories, but I couldn't stay there. The emotional weight of everything had become too much. I needed a fresh start, somewhere far away from her lies and manipulation. I found a small apartment, a quiet place where I could breathe and think. It's not much, but it's mine now. I feel like I'm finally taking control again, even if I'm still healing from the betrayal. The financial mess she left behind was another burden. I had to clean up her mess, recover the stolen money, deal with legal fees, and figure out what assets I could salvage. It was a nightmare, but I managed. I learned that trust is fragile and that some people will do anything to get what they want, no matter who they hurt. I also learned to be more cautious, more guarded. I can't just blindly trust someone anymore. That's a hard lesson, but an important one. Looking back now, I realize I've grown stronger through all this chaos. I've learned to stand up for myself, to fight for what's right, and to recognize the signs of manipulation early. Lisa's betrayal was a brutal wake-up call, but it also made me realize I deserve better. I don't regret fighting for my assets or exposing her lies. Those were necessary steps to reclaim my life. I just wish I'd seen her true colors sooner, but maybe that's part of life's lessons. Now I focus on moving forward, rebuilding my trust in myself, and making sure I don't let anyone manipulate me again. I hope sharing this story helps someone else see the warning signs before it's too late. People can be good at pretending, but the truth always comes out in the end. And when it does, you've got to be ready to fight for what's yours. Because no one else is going to do it for you. Not even the person you thought loved you. Looking back, I never thought I'd be the guy standing here, having gone through something like this. Betrayal, lies, theft, things you see in movies, not in your own life. But life has a way of kicking you hard when you least expect it. Lisa's betrayal shattered my trust, but it also forced me to wake up. I learned that people are capable of some truly disgusting things when they think they can get away with it. And I learned that you can't just turn a blind eye to the warning signs. When she lied about her inheritance, I should have seen it coming. When she staged the fake breakup, I should have known she was capable of anything. This whole experience taught me a lot about myself. It's made me realize that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can face the worst and still come out on top. It's also shown me the importance of boundaries and being cautious about who I trust. I used to believe in the idea of forever, in the person you marry being your partner for life. Now I know that sometimes people are just good at pretending they are. And when they're exposed, the truth is ugly but necessary. I've come to accept that some things cannot be fixed, and that's okay. Moving on doesn't mean forgetting or pretending it didn't happen. It means learning from it and choosing to rebuild my life on a foundation of honesty and self-respect. I've started focusing on myself, my health, my career, my future. I don't hold any resentment anymore. That's a waste of energy. Instead, I use my experience as a reminder. Never again will I let someone manipulate me or betray my trust without consequence. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, I want to say, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the red flags, no matter how much you want to believe in the best version of a person. Be vigilant, be cautious, and don't be afraid to fight for what's right, whether that's your assets, your reputation, or your peace of mind. Because in the end, nobody else will do it for you. You owe it to yourself to stand up, be strong, and protect what's yours. And finally, I've learned that even in the deepest betrayal, there's a chance for growth. It's not easy and it hurts like hell, but somehow you come out the other side, more resilient, more aware, more ready to face whatever life throws at you. Lisa's betrayal broke my trust, but it didn't break me. It's just part of my story now, a story of pain, but also of strength, of a man who refused to be defeated by the lies of a woman who thought she could manipulate her way through life. I'm moving forward and I'm doing it on my own terms. That's all that matters.